The panel we are looking at is for an HWH computerized leveling system. It is a system, the panel we're looking at right now is for a unit that has airbags for the suspension, and it is also a system that has powered up, powered down jacks, meaning that there are no springs attached to the jacks. It may differ if you have springs that are used to retract the jacks. Now we're going to go over a bunch of little basic things. So when using an HWH system, the vehicle that you are using should typically be running. The only reason it should not be running is if you were advised or told not to during your initial training and during the training video and that sort of thing. If you were told beforehand not to have your unit on, that is the only reason that this would change. You should also, if you do not, you can see in this vehicle right above it, there is an air brake. If you have a parking brake, it should be parked and it should be set the parking brake on. If you do not set it and you try to use the system, there is a little red light that will illuminate right here, and that says right there on the thing, not in park/brake. If you try to use the system with the park brake off, it will come on warning you, hey, please put the park brake on. The unit should be running because these jacks require quite a bit of 12-volt draw of volts and amps. So if you don't have the unit running and you try to run these a couple times, what's going to happen is the battery's going to kind of drain. They're going to go really slow. Now, this system does have a limitation of 3 degrees. If you are beyond a 3-degree slope and you are parked on a hill or on a curb or on just any sort of slant, typically the system will throw an excess slope light will come on. It'll throw that little code. That indicates you need to find a more suitable location to try to use the auto level. If that light does come on, it does typically indicate that you can still manually stabilize the unit, but you are not going to try to level it. If you do try to level it, you can cause damage to the actual unit. And we'll go over manually leveling as well. In a typical situation on a flat plane within the 3-degree limit, you will just push this auto level button once, and I'm going to do that right now. You'll notice air is now depleting from the airbags on the exterior of my vehicle. It's settling right now and the red light is blinking, and I'm going to hit cancel and just pause it right in between. Now you'll notice a couple things. I'm losing air still, but you'll notice that there's these little yellow lights on and there's a picture of a vehicle. Those yellow lights indicate which way you are currently leaning. Now this auto level system, because I'm on a flat plane, will try to chase those lights and make them go away. Think of those little yellow lights as a bubble level. So right now you can see that the center bubble, we are out of the bubble, leaning to the right and downhill to the rear. Our system, I have the buzzer or the warning light, warning sound disabled, but you can't see it in the view right now, and I can adjust it up a tiny bit. Don't mind the labels on these. You may only have one little light, or you may have the reset switch. Typically, when the jacks begin to extend, this little light that says check leveling jacks or leveling jacks are down will typically illuminate. You will hear a buzzing or a warning noise indicating that the jacks are coming down. It is typically a high-pitched beeping noise. That noise is warning you, hey, the vehicle keys are in the ignition, the vehicle's running, and you are deploying the jacks. Even when that light goes away after the jacks have raised and the buzzing goes away, it is still your responsibility as a user, as a driver, to walk around the vehicle and physically check that A, the jacks are down, or A, the jacks are up. You cannot rely on the lights and the warning noise. If for some reason that system were to fail, you cannot rely on it. You must use common sense and your eyes to do so. So I'm going to continue by pushing the auto level so the system can use its thing. And let me get it back there. The blinking light is on again, indicating the system is running. Typically, other than what I just did, you will never turn the system off or turn the vehicle off until the red light stops blinking, or the blue light. Sometimes they're blue. You will never turn that off. What it's doing is the system is thinking it's working, and it's doing its thing to start putting the jacks down. You'll now hear a loud noise like jacks deploying. You will see on the panel little red lights came on, and the little yellow light just went away. That indicates which jacks are currently deploying. You'll see that the left rear light just came on, and it's going to start raising the rear of the vehicle that I am in. And it's chasing that little yellow light, trying to make it go away. So it's going to take a little bit. I'm in a pretty slanted parking lot. Now that one's done. So there's one more jack to go. And it's going to start putting down the front left. When the system is done and the jack is fully extended, the blinking red light will stop, indicating that we have reached, right there, we have reached an acceptable level location that the computer accepts. You notice that the little yellow light just came right back on in the center. Don't panic. That little yellow light just means you're leaning a little bit. It's well within the 3-degree limitation, so you're not going to have any issues. At this point, what you should do, you should physically walk around the vehicle. Please make sure that your jacks are all firmly touching the ground, that none of your tires are off the ground. If a tire is off the ground, specifically the rear, that can be an issue. If you lift the rear tires off the ground, your parking brake ties into those rear tires. You are now on to front free spinning tires. You can rock forward, bend the jacks, cause damage to the frame. Now that we have the jacks deployed and done, I could typically turn the key off, and the vehicle is set up to deploy slide outs, awnings, and that kind of thing. You never want to put stairs, awnings, or slide outs out unless these jacks are down. If you do so without putting the jacks down, you can cause damage to the frame and damage to the jacks, and that's not a good thing at all. Alright, so when you're done at the end of the day, I'm going to turn the key off for a second. The lights all went off, as you can see. It does have a little yellow light on because my key was still in ignition, and I just turned it again. So it will look like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the vehicle back up. So I'm done at my current location. What I would then do is, if you see a little button here, it looks like a little jack with an up arrow. All I'm going to do is press Auto Store. Now you're going to see the little red light blinking above Auto Store. You can see the little yellow lights are flickering. They're coming back on, indicating we're starting to lean again. And the red lights are disappearing, indicating the jacks are raising. Even after all these little warning lights go away, my little check leveling light, my little red lights, the buzzing noise that you guys will have, you do need to get out and physically check that the jacks have been retracted. If they are not retracted, there is another issue going on, and you'll have to call someone because there's a service issue. So I'm going to let this run and do its little thing. Once again, don't turn the key off, don't try to drive away until you physically have checked, and until you're sure that the jacks have retracted fully. Now, depending on how cold it is outside, depending on how long it has been since you have last run the jacks, it can take a different amount of time than it typically does to deploy the jacks. If the vehicle has sat for a long period of time, kind of like this one has, it's taking its time. I'm actually going to pause it. It can take a little bit longer for the jacks to come back up. It is kind of like a heavy fluid inside the HWH jacks. When it gets cold, it thickens up quite a bit, and you may experience a little bit slower deploying and retracting time. Now, because I hit auto store and the vehicle is running, what it's going to do is it's going to immediately bring the jacks up, and you can't see it on the camera, but far to my right is an air gauge, and I can actually feel the back of the vehicle starting to raise again, and I can actually see on my gauges that the pressure has increased in the rear airbags. Now, unless you have an actual toggle switch, which you shouldn't with the system, but it is possible, as long as you make sure that your airbags have fully inflated before you drive away, you should not have an issue. Now let's pretend that we were parked in a location that was less acceptable than the one I'm currently in. It was, let's say, a hill or a slant. The easiest way to set the jacks, to stabilize the unit, not level it, is to do it manually. So you have two options. You can press and hold this manual dump, and it will start to dump the airbags in the rear. It does take quite a bit of time to get the airbags to dump. I'm still holding and still holding, and it's still dumping in the back of the vehicle. Once I feel the vehicle bottom out, you can go and look and make sure that the vehicle has deflated the airbags. Once I know there is enough air out of the airbags, I'm watching my gauges, it has just dropped. I'm going to release that button. At this point, I can now use the arrows here to manually stabilize the unit. Now, if you'll read, it says the up arrow is to extend, the down arrow is to retract. Now, the best way to think about it is you are pushing the arrow the way you want the vehicle to go. If I want the front to go up, I'm going to push the up. If I need the front to come down, I'm going to use the down arrow. Now, typically, I always just start with the front. I'm going to press and hold this up arrow until I feel the jacks firmly touch the ground, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the rear. From there, you can adjust left and right minimally. Like I said, do not try to make these little yellow lights go away. If you do try to make the little lights go away, you can lift the vehicle off the ground, and that is not a good thing. So I'm going to push and hold the up arrow. My two front jacks are now coming down in pairs. You will typically feel one hit and then the other. I just felt the other one hit. I'm going to do the rear until I feel them hit. They just hit. And now I can do left and right a little bit. So I'm going to push, and you can see the little yellow light is flickering, trying to go away. I'm on a good location, so it may disappear, which it just did. But if you are parked on a hill, you just want to bring the vehicle up a little bit. Like I said, if you try too far and you lift the tires off the ground, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to bring that side back down. Now let's say I went out back and my back tires were off the ground. I will push the down arrow and tap it until those tires are firmly on the ground. From there, you can just turn the vehicle off like normal. You're done. The jacks are set up. The vehicle is not rocking back and forth, and you're ready to operate. Now, you always want to do these HWH jacks when no one is in the vehicle and people are not walking around. If people are walking around and you try to do the jacks, it will pick it up as a leveling issue, and it will rock back and forth, and it will try to chase the way the vehicle is rocking. That is not a good thing, so avoid that at all costs. Now, when you're done, I will turn this back off. The lights will all go back off. I'm going to start the vehicle back up. I'm ready to leave. I would push the auto store button. It will now bring the jacks back up automatically, and it should automatically reinflate the rear airbags in the rear as well. So it's doing its thing. It's thinking right now. If you do notice, like my red lights are still on and the system's not working correctly, sometimes you can even just retract the jacks by pushing and holding the retract button on the pair of jacks that you're having issue with. When the system is done and you are ready to go, a little green light will come on where it says travel mode. Once again, do not rely on the lights. You must physically get out, walk around the vehicle, and check that the jacks are fully retracted. Now, those little lights that I pointed out earlier up here, see the one is still illuminated indicating the jacks are down. This one that says leveling jacks reset switch, you may or may not have that switch. What that switch is actually for is if you have a malfunction like you were to throw an excess slope code, or you extended the jacks too far, you can press that button and it will reset the jacks so that you can actually retry the operation. So I'm going to push auto store again, and it's going to do its thing and try to bring the jacks up.